Hello, we want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice, coming from Sunnyside, Texas. We've been out of the studio for a while, but we're back in the studio today, and we've got some guests with us today. We're just going to have a good spirited conversation today about some issues that are out there. Our guest today is, of course, Pastor Nash to my right, who is the CEO and president of our Sunnyside Community Voice. And then we have Mr. Bill Russell here with us, which is to my left. He is a helper of the people. I guess that's the best way to put it. He likes to help people. So today, what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about some issues that are out there. We know that voting is coming up. November 12th is coming up pretty fast, to be exact. We need to get out. We need to vote. There are other issues that are affecting us in our community. And today we're just going to talk in general about some of those things that are of concern to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Mr. Russell introduce himself, tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll get started in our conversation.
How are you doing? I'm pleased to be here. I'm Bill Russell. I'm mostly known as your personal car dealer. I've been in the car business about 30 years, selling cars, giving cars, donating cars, supplying cars. But most importantly, I found myself in a position of trying to give back or plant seeds so it doesn't harvest. There's so many people hurting and in need in our city. And my goal is too much is given, much is required. So I find myself on the seed planting process, expecting the harvest. So I find myself on the seed planting process. So I find myself giving, supporting, getting involved in our community activities, getting involved in our election process, getting involved in all the things that affect our city. And I think that's one of the things that's missing in our city is activists. I mean, I say people say history, community activists. They think that means being something militant. No, that means playing an active role in the thing that affect your community.
Exactly.
And oftentimes I get phone calls saying, well, what should I do?
Yeah.
Well, do the thing you complain about the most. Get involved in the thing that you think affects you the most. Whatever you complain about the most, let that be your issue.
Right.
And you know, I mean, if you're pushing a car up a hill by yourself, it's a difficult task. But if 1,000 of us push that same car, let's say all our cars at the bottom of the hill, you push me last, let's go you first. But let's all push your car, come and get my car. It becomes an easy task. So working together as a unit, we can get some things done.
Right.
You talk about voting. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of turnout we have, especially in the African American community on the voting side of the deal. Then on the end of the election, we wonder why we have the least of the best.
Right.
Rather than, you know, so I'm trying to figure out why is that we find ourselves paralyzed when it comes down time to go out and vote.
Right.
It's just, you know, as a community in our ancestors, they did less talking and more doing.
Exactly.
Now we do a whole lot of talking and no doing.
Right, of course.
And then on the backside of the, on my show, for example, I've got a show, a talk show. I'll solicit for callers on what we think we should do in the community. All the lines are lit up.
Yeah.
Now, second half, I'll call in on what you're actually doing. None of the lines are already lit up. I mean, they don't have any. They got a bunch of conversations. But when I asked about activeness, what you actually doing to help your community, that we could actually verify, nobody calls because they know all they want to do is talk. So I'm encouraging all of you who are listening to this program and who attend all the churches, our black ministers as a whole, to get out and vote. Here's another thing I want to talk to you about, Pastor. I have not been able to get an understanding of why, as a unit, all of our clergy can't find themselves unified.
Right.
So that's why we seek. I mean, I remember one time I used to have a breakfast at one of the dealerships I managed for a bunch of the ministers. It was designed to, I try to get all the ministers to say, all the black African-American pastors in our city to put 10% of your money in Unity Bank.
Right.
That was all black bank. I couldn't get that. I don't understand. Not all of it, because I mean, Unity Bank may not be big enough to diversify all your investments, all your. I'm saying, let's just all do 10%.
Right.
And I got that example from Metro Bank.
Right.
It's an Asian bank on Bissonnette in Bel Air. It's one of the strongest banks in Texas.
Right.
Wow.
But all the Vietnamese put their money
They do.
in that bank.
Exactly.
So as a whole, as a whole, somewhere along the way, after the 60s and Martin Luther King, we've lost our capacity to unify, to come together on one accord.
Because they have, to piggyback on what you're saying, what we have is we have that crab mentality. We don't want to see anybody else. Everybody wants to be in charge. You know, you could get all the clergy to come together or any group to come together if we didn't focus so much on who was in charge and who had to be at the top. If we all are working together, then we all are at the top. But we have a tendency to have that crab mentality that when somebody is getting up, we're steady pulling them down. If we're to get back to where we once was, we're going to have to come together, truly come together, and all work together. And that's what we don't do. It's too many people in this corner saying that no, it needs to be my way. People in that corner, it got to be my way. Why can't you sit down at the table and come up with a way where it will work? You just came up with a plan when you say you wanted to get them all to come in together. Well, you might have one that can do 10% and one that might not have done, may not do from his church want to be a part, but may not have but 5%. Well, those with the 10% want to complain about the one with the 5%. That's not how you do it. If everybody put all their little nickels and pennies together, then that's how you make it work. And that could work. What you're saying, it could. You brought up the Vietnamese or Indian. They will come to this country, and I don't mean to offend anybody, and they will come together as a family. They will put all of their eggs in one basket, and they could take up just a gazillion families because they come together and they believe in that unit of family. And we at one time believed in that, but for some reason we've gotten from that. Pastor?
You know, let me welcome you to the show first of all. And one of the reasons I listen to your show on Friday is because you interact with the people, and some of the issues that we're dealing with. You bring them up, you talk about them, and of course you and Mike, you know, Mike's very informed about certain things, and a lot of foolishness, but at the same time, a lot of information. My concern is this, always been that we're not doing anything to get the people mobilized to vote. To me, that's one of the most important aspects of our lives now, the important, especially impressing upon our young kids, how important the vote is. I think it's time out to talk about where your grandma or your granddad. It's time to get them acclimated, get their minds set to voting. It's important. Now, I know I talked to some leaders. I want to know who are our leaders in our community, and I have not yet got an answer. One of them said, "Well, you're a leader," and that might be well and good. I'm looking now. I've been sending emails. We need to start some kind of movement to get the people out to vote. This is probably going to be one of the most critical issues and vote in terms of our lifetime, okay? We need to get out and vote. And I've got a voter registration card here. I bought this because it's simple technique of how to vote. But it's important that we do that. Now, the reason I said that, when a kid turn 18 years old, before they get 18, we should already be informing them as to the need and importance of them voting. We can talk about some of the people that some of the things they've been through and all of that. And even now, our youngsters are just wasting away because they don't have any role models. They don't have anybody to set the right example for them. We need to be trying to get out in the community, different communities, and get these kids' minds set on voting. Sometimes I get tired of talking about the kids with their parents now. If we can get something up here, the parents will come up. And it's time out for foolishness. We as leaders in the community, we have to use all our resources, our mindset, to try to get these kids to understand, cut the foolishness out. It's time to vote. So we got critical issues. Now I listen at you, and the reason I really wanted you on the show, and of course we're going to bring you back because there are some deep-seated things that we really need to talk about that the community needs to know. We dealt with mental health for a long time. Those are important things. Right. But right now, the critical thing is, how do we save our young people? How do we get them acclimated to stop acting up and start acting like gentlemen and young men and young ladies? Because it's important that as I get older and going off the scene, I want to leave such an impact that somebody says, I want to follow Pastor Nash for all the things that he was doing in the community. And it's not all about money. It's about getting out, helping people. And when we help people, people will share in what you're trying to do. So it's important to me that we start rallying and get people to vote. We need to start mobilizing people together. I've been trying to say this for a while. We need to start getting people out and talk about voting. If you notice, there's not a lot of talk men giving about voting.
Right.
And that's what we got to stop. We got to promote it. Listen, we got to promote voting. Now, if you say that my vote is not going to count, well, it won't count if you don't vote. and these issues we got now are very critical. Now, I don't mind saying this. We've been looking at the debates, okay, Republican debates, okay? I'm listening to all the criticism. I'm listening to all the mud being slung. To me, let's deal with the issues and stop the name calling, stop the mud slinging, and give people an opportunity to choose the person that they want to be in leadership in the city, in this county, and our state. But right now, it seems like it's permeated by hatred. There's a lot of hatred. Seems like we can't come together because of who we think should be the leaders. It's time out for that. What we should do, determine a way to mobilize people. And I'm going to be working with you on that. I'm going to be calling you this, to try to get the leaders in place. Where can we meet that we can say, no, it's time to get these people ready to vote. You got 2012 coming. It's time to get people ready to vote. And I mean really serious about it. I don't mean just putting somebody in office just to put them in there. Somebody that's effective, somebody that's going to be concerned about the entire community, the entire nation, not just a small faction, but all of the poor. It bothers me about this health care. And I'm going to have somebody come on the program to discuss this health care, because right now we really kind of bamboozled. We really don't know a lot about it. Even the debt ceiling, we don't know a lot about that. So what we got to do is have somebody that's a student in that and professional enough to come on the show and talk about the health care. Can you imagine? I listened last night and I was kind of appalled when people that you can't afford to get health care, okay? So, and I listened to some of the people saying, well, I don't want health care under that plan, okay? So what are you telling me that? If I'm healthy, you're healthy, she's healthy, but if you get sick and you don't have any help, what are you going to do, just let you die? So those are things that people need to get their mind set on. Listen, let's stop the foolishness. Listen to the issues and use common sense sometime. I don't want to see anybody that gets sick and don't have a means of trying to get healthy.
I agree. Pastor, well, first of all, I commend you. I've been knowing you for a long time, 20, 25 years, and I've seen that face on the front line, well, not in the background, on the front line for a long time.
Oh, yes.
And oftentimes at tremendous cost to you. I mean, they say sometimes when you take stand on issues, you lose political power sometimes. You burn political cash. In other words, you burn political relationships. You're not on their side of the issue, standing for an issue. And I commend you on doing that. And oftentimes, a lot of our leaders don't want to put their political careers, quote unquote, at risk by standing for the issues that are facing us every day. And so the way to adjust that is with that card, the vote. You vote in who you want to stand and who's going to stand based on what they've shown themselves to do along the way. I had a guy called me one day, he wanted to run for city council. I said, okay, what have you done? Well, I ain't gonna, I'm gonna. I said, well, you haven't been doing anything already. I mean, you didn't have to be in office to have been active.
There you go.
You have been active along the way. And so why don't you run?
Right.
I don't have to be a king. I don't have to be a king. I can be a kingmaker. I work in the background. That's what I do. That's where I put my dollars, my efforts. That's what I do. I mean, I'm not the politician, but I am active. You say, where can they meet? They can meet at my house. I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I'll feed them. And whatever. If you can create it now, we can create a situation where they're willing to come together and communicate. That's the first part of it. Just getting a meeting of everyone coming together has been so difficult.